Leader of Action SA, Herman Mashaba, says he will take legal action against DA leader John Steenhuisen, whom he says accused him of giving tenders to the EFF during his time as mayor of Johannesburg. Now, Steenhuisen says Mashaba danced to the tune of the Red Berets when he was mayor in order to placate them. This was in response to criticism from Mashaba, who said the DA had abandoned its project of unseating the ANC. Let's get to the latest on the story now. We're joined by Herman Mashaba via our video link this morning. Herman, good morning. Once again, thanks so much for your time on the AM report. So what Steenhuisen effectively said is that you resigned because you were scared that your own caucus would pass a motion of no confidence against you.
Well, Michelle, good morning, and good morning to the listeners. I'm sure South Africans are not stupid enough to understand that on the 21st of October 2019, I had a press conference, and fortunately enough, that press conference is actually captured in all media platforms, and I raised the issue of then the DA in discussion with the ANC to remove me. And I said to South Africans, I said, why should I obviously stay in a government and a political party which I was saving that was already talking to the ANC then. So I think I feel vindicated now that John Steenhuisen has actually confirmed. It is now official. Remember, they used to deny it all along that I was talking nonsense when I said there are meetings afoot between the ANC and the DA to remove me, because obviously the DA felt that my policies of saving poor communities was unacceptable to them.
So you feel like these comments are in fact perhaps a bit of spite on the part of John Steenhuisen?
Yeah, well, I think it shows the man's amnesia, the disingenuousness. I think he's realizing, if you look at human beings, when you start lying, you reach a stage where you can't really lie any longer, then you blunder. Because honestly, yesterday's article in the Sunday Times was one of the biggest political blunders any politician can make. Because you remember, Michelle, they've been denying my allegations around the DA talking to the ANC to remove me. You can imagine I was the mayor of the DA. How do the DA start negotiating with the with the ANC to remove me? And actually talking to Jeff Makubu. Jeff Makubu, almost more than a year beforehand, I had given them enough evidence of Jeff Makubu's involvement in corruption. And they voted for Jeff Makubu. They're still his biggest supporters in council. Subsequent to my leaving, Helen Zeller also confirmed to the DA caucus in Johannesburg that they must accept that DA is a 20% political party. All these are now coming out, and John Steenhuisen has helped South Africa to put the DA's position out in the field, because all along they were denying all these allegations. Because at the time there were allegations. Now John Steenhuisen has now confirmed.
And Herman, is your next step going to court?
Well, not firstly. I think my lawyers will be writing to John this morning to request him to retract my involvement in corruption, because I think it's one of the biggest insults anyone can level against me. More especially DA in particular, that every month, DA, I used to really give them feedback on these issues of corruption. As you are aware, Michelle, in the 3 years I was a mayor, I uncovered 34 billion rands worth of corruption cases. From day one, I fired 4 MMC, 3 of them of DA executives. And of all 3 of them, actually I remember the last one, I had to threaten to resign if DA was not allowing me to fire this corrupt individual. So they had knowledge about this. Now, if they were aware of my corrupt activity, why didn't they raise it then? And in fact, I'm not even asking them to raise it then, because I believe very strongly as South Africans, if there's any knowledge of corruption, you are not doing anything about it, you are complicit. So I request and invite DA to lay criminal charges, because if I got involved in corruption, I committed crime. And if DA then does not really lay criminal charges, then something is wrong with them, that they are then complicit to that crime that I committed.
So Mmusi Maimane, who, like yourself, is a former leader of parts of the DA, is calling this a flirtation that the Democratic Alliance is having, this talk about a possible coalition ahead of 2024. For you, Herman, what does this kind of discussion signal in terms of the DA's policy, which has always been to go national?
Well, I think DA abandoned the project of going national. The DA abandoned the project of unseating the ANC. Some of us, I think I can speak for myself, I made it clear from day one when I left my job to assist the DA to unseat the ANC. And the DA proved it beyond any reasonable doubt throughout the 3 years that I was their mayoral candidate, even including when I was the mayor, that I discovered that DA is not interested in removing the ANC, and particularly the civil side. And I think it will come out as to why should DA be so animated and be prepared to actually compromise their own values to want to really support Cyril. Cyril, who at the time, as you are aware, corruption at the moment under Cyril Ramaphosa is the highest ever since. I mean, we remember during Jacob Zuma's era, we had corruption, but it was Zuma and his few cronies. Today, during the term of Cyril Ramaphosa, no South African is aware of the corruption that is outright looting that is happening, including food parcel. So corruption under Cyril Ramaphosa is completely out of hand. And this is the official party that is prepared to really go into government with such an individual and a clique. So it's really unfortunate for South Africa, that really tragic that an official opposition would want to really go into bed with a government that's actually failing people of South Africa. In fact, last night I was actually talking to one of the TA people to say, tell me, how are you guys going to be running this acting to Cyril Ramaphosa's ANC that's right now pushing land expropriation without compensation? You, as a DA, you were running a petition, so you were misleading your members with this petition, because you are prepared to go into bed with the ANC of Cyril Ramaphosa that is pushing land without compensation. Something that would be catastrophic for South Africa. And basically, DA, it looks like for them, misleading society, it's a part and parcel of that DA.
One wonders,
DNA.
Yeah, Herman, one wonders what the people who vote for the Democratic Alliance, specifically, let's talk about the Western Cape where it governs, what its electorate will think of this abandoning of the national project. Wasn't the picture always that the DA wanted to take over as a South African government? It's the reason why the party, before every State of the Nation address, presents its own SONA, before every budget tabled by Minister Tito Mboweni, presents its own alternative budget.
No, it's not just the DA members in the Western Cape who were misled. I mean, you can imagine, Michelle, someone like myself, someone who never thought I would one day get into political office. But because of my love for the country and believing in the project of the DA to unseat the ANC, I left everything else and devoted my life to unseating of the ANC. And now inside the DA, I fought for 3 years. The DA says, you know what, we are going to work with the ANC, including obviously having secret meetings with them to unseat me, including when Mmusi Maimane was during the campaign, Mmusi being all the time criticized for criticizing, was not allowed to criticize Cyril Ramaphosa. That's when we started really seeing that something is not really right. And eventually this clique that is currently running right now, running the DA under Steenhuisen, they've now taken over. Remember, I did mention my concern about this clique of the DA, the same as the Guptas. I said, we, as South Africa, we experienced the Guptas after hijacking and taking over the ANC. Now, I said, there's a clique that is now taking over the DA. Now they've taken over the DA there, and they're prepared to really work with Cyril Ramaphosa, regardless of the consequences. And people of Cape Town, the DA voters, and particularly for black voters. So because, I mean, last night, I was talking to one of the senior DA people, and he said, look, you know what, I'm not really sure what to really tell our voters and our people, because this was never really discussed with us. It's one of the biggest embarrassment I've ever experienced. Yeah. But anyway, we will see. Unfortunately, DA is busy annihilating themselves. But it's unfortunate for our democracy, because I think DA had the potential. We all believed in it. But I think, fortunate enough, the DNI are totally water under the bridge, and let me forget about them and really focus with other parties that are prepared, and fellow South Africans who wants to see the ANC out of power. Because for as long as we've got the ANC in power, in Michelle, we know another 4 or 5 years, this country will collapse, because financially, this country cannot absorb, cannot sustain the looting, the mismanagement, cater deployment of the ANC any longer. This country will collapse like Zimbabwe. And I can tell you, when South Africa collapses, Zimbabwe will be like the Sunday school picnic.
Herman, I want to just get your final comment, but please make it very quick. The resumption of political events under lockdown level 3 announced by the President last night. What does it mean for Action SA?
Well, I think as Action SA, we're really quite pleased to some extent with us that our 260,000 volunteers all over the country will now begin their work. As you are aware, Michelle, we've already committed to making preparations. We are really in advanced stage of preparations for contesting the Johannesburg, Tshwane, and Ekurhuleni Metro. We are ready. So actually, this morning I'll be having a meeting at 9 o'clock, making sure that our foot soldiers out there can really start doing their work, but at the same time, appealing to them to really still be aware that this pandemic, this virus is still around. Yeah. So we will operate, but operate within the legal framework and making sure that we protect ourselves and protect our fellow South Africans.
Herman Mashaba, thanks so much for your time this morning on the AM Report, Action SA leader.